Hi, I'm Neil Beck. I was a doctor in Perth, Western Australia for 53 years. The people who had the best lives had good mental health, good relationships, and a strong immune system. But there are other people who had poor mental health and bad relationships, and they had depressed immune systems and tended to get sick more often. And a great problem was that there was never enough mental health help for all the people that needed mental health help. And when people with mental health distress got desperate, that they would seek relief from street drugs, and all the street drugs were addictive, and then they became addicts, and that was the worst possible life you could have, to be mentally sick and an addict. You lost everything, and so many of them died. We had a terrible outbreak of heroin addiction in Perth in the late 1990s, and there were people dying everywhere from heroin overdoses. Because Perth is one of the most remote cities in the world, we didn't get the main drugs of addiction until later than other countries. We always had alcoholism and we always had tobacco, but we didn't get heroin and crystal meth and cocaine and things like that until the late 1990s. So many people were suffering and dying that I started to work in an addiction clinic 10 hours a week to get to know about addiction. I wanted to know what caused addiction, but I couldn't find anybody who could tell me what caused addiction. I went to all the addiction clinics in Perth and Sydney and couldn't find a single addiction worker who could tell me what caused addiction, or thought that they should know what caused addiction, but I thought I should know what caused addiction. Nothing happens without causes. And when you know the causes, it's much easier to help resolve problems. And if you don't find and fix the causes, people just keep relapsing. One day in the addiction clinic that I was working 10 hours a week, I saw 15 heroin addicts, and 5 of them had ADD, ADHD. They were undiagnosed and they were in a terrible shape. Having ADD, ADHD is bad, but having that and heroin addiction as well was even worse. And the problem was that once a person was an addict, the addiction clinic, the mental health clinics refused to see them. Didn't matter how bad their mental health was, if they were an addict, they couldn't get an appointment at a mental health clinic. And at the addiction clinics, they did absolutely nothing about the mental health problems. I had to sit in at the main health department addiction clinic to learn how to treat addicts and to get permission to prescribe the medicines. And what I learned was how not to treat addicts, because I saw people with obvious serious mental health disorders, and all that happened was that they were given methadone to stop their heroin addiction, and nothing was done about their mental health. Once I saw that a third of the heroin addicts had ADD, I looked very carefully and I found there were about 9 common mental health disorders, and 95% of the addicts had 2 or 3 of these problems. The commonest one was worry, anxiety. Anxiety includes general anxiety, social anxiety, panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, and all sorts of phobias. Then there was sleep disorders. A lot of addicts had terrible problems sleeping. one who claimed he only slept about 6 hours a week eventually hung himself. They just got so exhausted and confused and depressed from lack of sleep that they were desperate. The third common factor was major depression. Then there was bipolar disorder. Then there was attention deficit disorder, ADD, ADHD. Then there was post-traumatic stress disorder. Then there was one which I called IAD, which was irritability, anger, violence disorder, a lot of violence. And then there was one I called PTEF, post-traumatic evil focus, people who couldn't cope with their personal problems, so they focused on faraway problems like the CIA or Guantanamo Bay or conspiracy theories. And then there was schizophrenia, and then there was crashed self-esteem and self-confidence, and then there was autism. So I realized that what these people needed was simultaneous treatment of their diagnosis and treatment of their mental health condition and treatment of their addictions, which no one was getting. I couldn't find anyone doing that. It's called dual diagnosis, and that's what they all needed, but none of them were getting it. I'm very happy to say now that you can go online and find many clinics in different parts of the world doing dual diagnosis treatment, but that's what every addict needed. So I got very busy because the word spread in the addiction community that they could come to my clinic and get dual diagnosis, get their mental health treatment as well as their addiction treatment. And the main clinic, health department clinic, had a waiting list of 2 months, 8 weeks. So people would show up with a heroin problem as they come back in 8 weeks. And when I sat in on that clinic, I observed that less than half the people kept those appointments 8 weeks away. By the time the 8 weeks was up, they were in hospital, in prison, in a cemetery, or they were on the streets working as drug dealers to be able to support their own addiction habit. But dual diagnosis worked so well, so many people got better and didn't relapse, that the waiting list at the health department clinic got less and less and less until it was 0. When it got to 0, they got very worried, and so they wrote me a letter, no warning, no discussion, nothing, just you're not following our guidelines, so you can't prescribe the methadone and Subutex and Suboxone treatment for heroin addicts. So I then realized or worked out how to treat addictions with non-addictive medicines that didn't require special authority. My biggest discovery was that repeated microdose naltrexone could get people off heroin addiction and off addictive painkiller addictions quite quickly, and then low doses of naltrexone, 2 to 6 milligrams every evening, prevented them from relapsing. But I also found that baclofen was an excellent treatment for alcoholism, and a combination of baclofen and the calming antidepressant mirtazapine and microdose naltrexone worked very well for a lot of other people with addictions and anxiety disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, and so on. But what was very obvious was that there was never going to be enough mental health care for all the people who needed mental health care. So more and more of them were going to end up on the streets taking street drugs to get relief from their mental suffering and becoming addicts. So what was the problem? The problem was that the tools being used in mental health were very limited and had major problems. The first tool was medicines. People who take medicines want to take medicine, get better, and stop taking medicines. But the people who make medicine want them to take as much medicine as possible for as long as possible. So how do they achieve that? They achieve that in two ways. Firstly, they make as many medicines addictive as possible. The treatments for heroin are addictive. So people, methadone was about 5 times as addictive as heroin. So people went on for years and years and years on methadone. I think more people died than got better with the methadone treatment. All the treatments for anxiety were addictive. Originally it was the barbiturates. There were many different barbiturates and they were all addictive. And then in the 1960s we started to get Valium, Seropax, Mogadon, Xanax, benzodiazepines, and they were all addictive. And then there was Ambien or Stilnox, and that was addictive. Eventually I discovered baclofen. Baclofen is a calming medicine that is only slightly addictive. How did I discover that? I read a book called The End of My Addiction, written by a professor of cardiology from New York. This professor of cardiology, Dr. Olivier Amerson, originally from France, had a terrible anxiety problem which had become alcoholism, and he had tried every form of treatment for alcoholism, been to the 3 best rehabs, and always relapsed very quickly. Then a woman doctor in New York had a paraplegic patient who was a cocaine addict, and baclofen, a 1920s medicine for epilepsy. They got better medicines for epilepsy, so they stopped using baclofen for epilepsy, but it was still the best medicine for muscle relaxation. And paraplegics and quadriplegics get terrible muscle spasms. And 30 years ago I used quite a lot of baclofen when I was looking after 100 paraplegics and quadriplegics in the quadriplegic centre in Perth. But I didn't realise it was a tranquilizer. And then I read Dr. Amerson's book, The End of My Addiction, in which he explained that when he read about the woman doctor in New York giving baclofen to her paraplegic cocaine addict for his muscle spasms, and he was able to stop the cocaine. So Dr. Amerson thought he had nothing to lose. He'd tried everything, nothing else had worked, so he tried baclofen, and baclofen worked wonders for his alcoholism. So he wrote the book, The End of My Addiction. And I had been looking for a non-addictive calming medicine for all my heroin addicts and couldn't find one, and then found baclofen through that book. But baclofen is only slightly addictive, but it is slightly addictive. And I had 2 patients who ended up on 9 tablets a day of baclofen, which worried them and worried me. I don't remember one of them, but one of them I remember clearly was an Asian woman who was a heroin addict. She had 2 children, and her husband had died 4 days before from a heroin overdose, and she was desperate. So I gave her baclofen, and baclofen worked wonderfully for her. except that she took more and more and more until she was up to 9 tablets a day. So then I realized that I had to somehow overcome that situation, and that's when I mixed the baclofen, 3 milligrams of baclofen to 2 milligrams of mirtazapine and 3/4 of a milligram microdose of naltrexone, and that controlled her situation very well. So the weaknesses with the tools for mental health were that medicine, so many medicines were addictive. All the mental health, all the anxiety medicines, post-traumatic stress disorder medicines, sleep medicines were all addictive. And the 3 main medicines for ADD, ADHD were addictive. That's Ritalin, dexamphetamine and Adderall, all addictive, which caused terrible problems. So the other way in which why medicines were weak was that they were too slow. When you most of the medicines came as tablets or capsules, and when you swallow a tablet or capsule, it takes half an hour to an hour to go right down your gut and start to be absorbed into your bloodstream and start to get back up to your brain where it's needed, and 1 to 2 hours before it's working strongly, and half an hour to an hour to start and 1 to 2 hours to be effective is just too slow. If you're trying to overcome mental distress, or you're trying to ward off a craving for an addictive substance. And the other tool for mental health and addiction was talk therapy, talking to the patient. But that had 2 problems. The first problem is it was very slow. With a new patient with 2 or 3 mental health disorders and an addiction, it took an hour to deal with them on the first consultation, to find out what their problems were, what had probably caused their problems, what was making their problems worse, how we could make their problems better. And then we had to see them for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour every week for weeks and weeks. Just too slow. And the second problem with talk therapy was it was too costly. To be a therapist, you need to have at least a 4-year psychology degree from a university, or a 5-year master's degree in psychology, or a 6 or 7-year PhD degree in psychology. And to be a psychiatrist, you have to have a 6-year general medical degree, a couple of years of general medical practice, and then 3, 4 or 5 years of postgraduate psychiatric training. So anybody who's smart enough to do that and spends enough money and lack of earning power to do that very long training has to be paid well. If we don't pay them well, nobody's going to do it. So, no, some people will do it, but a lot of people will do law or engineering or architecture or something else instead. So therapists have to be paid properly, and because the work is slow, it was very costly. So I got very busy doing dual diagnosis treatment because no one else was doing it, and the word spread, and people needed their mental health care at the same time as their addiction treatment. So I had to start to make tools to enable me to cope with the great numbers of people. My first tool was a 20-question checklist, and then I started to make videos, and I ended up having 8 tools, and I'm almost finished the 10th tool, which I want to tell you about now. But the 8 tools were 83 under a minute videos, because they wouldn't watch long videos. They watch TikTok 1-minute videos. So I had to cover everything. I had to have 83. The second thing was websites. My first website, like everything I do, was too long, about 14 pages, and then I realized that most people weren't willing to cope with that, so I started a second website, which is just called smilefixit.com, which is one page with a lot of links, and you just look at that one page and you see which things you need, and you tap on the link and you go to it. The third thing was an app. The checklists were a big help, but still cumbersome. I had to get an assistant to do them, and people had to come to the clinic to do them. And as apps became more and more common, I realized that we needed to have an app. So then we built the Mental Fix-It app. The Mental Fix-It app, you just go to your phone, you tap the App Store or Google Play icon, download the free Mental Fix-It app, and at first there were 38 questions, and you took 10 minutes to tap your choice of answers to the 38 questions, and you got an instant report that listed your problems in order of severity and gave you the names, the links to the 6 1-minute videos that would help you most, because different people have different problems, and when there's 83 1-minute videos, you have to know which ones to watch, and the Mental Fix-It app tells you that very quickly. But 10 minutes was too long, so we had to reduce the number of questions from 38 to 19 so that people could do the app in 5 or 4 or 3 minutes, and get an instant report that told them what all their problems were in descending order of importance, which 6 videos would help them most that they could watch immediately, which medicines were likely to help them best, and gave them a graph of their total score each time they did the Mental Fix-It app check, so that they could see if they were getting better. The graph showed if their scores were getting better, and if so, they were on the right treatment. If the scores weren't getting better, the treatment needed to be changed, and that rapid feedback was very important in terms of getting them onto the best treatment quickly. But eventually we realized that even 5 minutes was too long for a lot of very troubled people. So now we're working flat out on reducing the Mental Fix-It app to 2 minutes. There'll be 12 questions which you can tap your choice of answers from 0 to 10 in 2 minutes. Any questions that you score less than 4 means that it's not a very big problem, and you don't get asked that question, you get asked another question. So fairly soon you go through the 33 questions and find the 4, 5 or 6 that are of real importance to you, and which are the best videos for you. Hope to have that 2-minute Mental Fix-It app available online sometime in May. So the fourth tool, so 1-minute videos, a 1-page website, a 5-minute app, and then live streaming, which is what I'm doing now. So I do live streaming over 5 hours a week. Well, it's been over 5 hours a week till now, but I've now under so much pressure that I have to shorten it a bit. But on Wednesday, Friday and Saturday evenings, 7 p.m. Perth time, and at 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings Perth time, because what we found after a while was that we were getting nearly half our viewers from the Northern Hemisphere, and 7 p.m. Perth time is 7 a.m. New York time and 4 a.m. LA time, and God knows what in London and Sweden and Norway, where a lot of people were. So that an user-friendly time. So we start to do the Sunday session at 9 a.m. Perth time, which is in the evening in the Northern Hemisphere. The fifth tool was powder medicine. And why powder medicine? It's because if you drop powder medicine on your tongue and suck it and absorb it through your tongue, it starts to work in 5 minutes. Instead of 30 to 60 minutes, it starts to work in 5 minutes. Your tongue is red or pink because the blood vessels are so close to the surface, and if you drop thousands of tiny grains of powder medicine on your tongue and suck it, it gets into the bloodstream very quickly and straight to your brain and starts to work in 5 minutes. And soon you get taste conditioning. That means that as soon as you drop the powder on your tongue, it gets to the taste buds at the back of your tongue and you taste it. Your body connects the taste with getting better, and you start to get better in seconds instead of in 5 minutes. The sixth tool was powder medicine dispensers, because powder in a bottle with a scoop was a bit awkward. You couldn't do it while you were driving the car, or in some situations, but with a pocket powder medicine dispenser you can whiz it out of your pocket and drop the powder on your tongue, even driving the car or anywhere, anytime. The seventh tool was a heartbeat meditation aid. Meditation is so valuable, so helpful for people with mental health and addiction disorders. But the people who benefit most often have difficulty learning to meditate. It's a habit, and to make it a habit you have to do it over and over and over again. And a lot of people who are very disturbed have difficulty doing that. But I'd been listening to people's hearts for 50 years, more than 50 years, with stethoscopes, and I knew that the heartbeat is loud and clear and very attention grabbing, and when I cut a stethoscope short and listened to my own heart, it was obvious that that was a much more attention grabbing and focusing factor to help people learn to meditate. So if you want a heartbeat meditation aid, just email us and we'll send you one for $25 plus postage. The eighth tool was another powder dispenser, but this powder dispenser gives a 1 ml dose of fruit powder. The medicine pocket dispensers gives a too small amount to get a good taste. And why do you do that? You do that because it helps you to make and break habits. If you want to make a habit, you have to do it over and over and over again until it becomes automatic, until the triggers and the electrical messages in your nerves and the chemical messages in your blood become strong. And some of the habits we'd like to make, we don't particularly like doing, and it's hard to do them often enough. But if every time you think about the habit you're trying to make, or you actually do it, you give yourself a lovely taste, that makes it easier to do it, and you do it more often and it becomes a habit quicker. And also it can help you to break bad habits. Bad habits are habits which are things you've done so many times that their triggers and their underlying nerve electrical messages and blood chemical messages are strong and easily triggered and almost automatic and hard to stop. And you break habits by delaying them and doing less of them. When you delay them and you do less of them, you weaken those underlying triggers and chemical and electrical messages. So if you're trying not to smoke, when you get the urge to have a cigarette, you have a lovely taste of fruit powder. I'm not a smoker, but I very much enjoy having chocolate powder and vanilla powder. But you can have whatever powder you like. You can buy the powders in supermarkets quite cheaply, and if you're trying not to eat too much chocolate and too many lollies and confectionery and biscuits and stuff with sugar in, because you're in danger of getting diabetic, or you are diabetic, or if you're trying to stop smoking, you just put a mill of lovely tasting fruit powder, which is very low calorie, got a little bit of sucrose, not sucrose, of fructose, of fruit powder, sugar in it, but no sucrose, no ordinary sugar. And so if you're trying to stop smoking, when you think of having a cigarette, you do that instead. Got it in your pocket wherever you go, and you put off smoking for 15 minutes. And when you do smoke, you only smoke 3/4 of the cigarette and chuck the last quarter away. And by delaying the smoking and smoking a bit less, you weaken the nicotine habit. And when you weaken the nicotine habit a bit, you can delay it a bit longer, and you can smoke a bit less. You can delay it for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and you can smoke half a cigarette and chuck the other half away. And in about 8, 10 or 12 weeks, you can fairly comfortably stop smoking. And then you just have that in your pocket at all times, because the big problem when you stop smoking is that you have a relapse. Something happens and a mate wants you to have a smoke while he has a smoke, and so you have one smoke and you're gone. Well, when someone tries to get you to have a smoke, you just ooze out and have the lovely taste instead. Now, what is the 10th tool? The 10th tool is probably going to be the last, or the second last tool, because I think it's the best, it's the strongest. It's what I call the Mental Fix-It Scroll Plus. The Mental Fix-It Scroll Plus. I'm a bit of a slow learner. It took me a long time to realize that long videos, not people's cup of tea. They want fast videos, under a minute. A minute's too long. 50, 40 or 30 seconds is better. But the same with doing checklists and doing apps. Speed is what they want. So what I had found was that there were about 90 factors involved in mental health and addiction. And I divided those 90 factors up into 10 groups. So the groups are: first aid for unhappiness. Feelings are usually the most powerful factors in our life. To be happy and healthy, grow your mental health. Downer mental health disorders, upper mental health disorders, relationships, families, habits, upper and downer addictions, and upper and downer medicines. So what you can do, which is what people love doing, is scrolling through the titles of all those items. So you start on the group that you find most interesting. Let's say the group that you find most interesting is feelings are usually the most powerful factors in our life. So what are the titles for that you can race through? Number one, to get a happy, healthy life, develop more and more good feelings and get your bad feelings fixed. Number two, most bad feelings are caused by 11 common mental health disorders. Number three, we produce 25 feel-good chemicals in our brain, glands and gut. Number four, our feel-good chemicals also boost our disease-fighting immune system, which keeps us healthy. Number five, to be happy, healthy and safe, keep your feel-good chemistry strong. So you can race through those titles. You do all the 10 groups if you can, but if you've only got time for do 2 or 3 or 4, well, you do 2 or 3 or 4. And every time you come to a title that you think, oh, that's important for me, because of the 90 factors in mental health and addiction, most troubled people have only got somewhere between 5 and 15 of them. And in the old days we used to have books 1,200 pages, 1,000 pages, and they were so long that we missed stuff. The most important mental health factor in my family was transgenerational trauma. And I didn't find out about transgenerational trauma till I was in my 80s. Because in the early days, when I was a medical student and a doctor, the books were very long and we didn't get to everything. So as soon as you find something, let's say to be healthy, happy and safe, keep your feel-good chemistry strong. As soon as you find a good one, you can immediately tap on an associated 13-second video. The 13-second video is what makes our feel-good chemistry strong are healthy, fresh, natural foods, drinking water, exercise, good sleep, sunlight, fresh air, smiling, dark chocolate, music, hugging, good sex, pets, and nature visits. Our feel-good chemicals also boost our disease-fighting immune system, which keeps us healthy. So there's a 10-second video that you can tap on and go straight to as soon as you see that item is of relevance to your case. So the 10-second video for that is our endorphins boosted immune system is cells, antibodies and chemicals in every part of us that keep us healthy by fighting infections, allergies, inflammation, autoimmune diseases and cancers. And when you see a title that appears to be of interest to you, of relevance to your case, then you tap the 6 to 15-second associated video, and that gives you a bit of detail about that particular problem. And then if that short video helps you, then there's an associated 1-minute video that you can tap on, which gives you more information. So what you do is you scroll through as many of the 90 factors as you can. You look at the 6 to 15-second videos on the ones that are important to you, and then you can read you can watch the 1-minute videos if you want to, then or later. And when you run out of time or are nearing running out of time, you tap on an item which is new interests. And when you tap on new interests, it gives you the list of all the short videos that you've looked at which were interesting to you, and their associated 1-minute videos which give you more detail. And you may have already looked at the 1-minute video if you're interested enough at the time, or you can wait till the end and then you look at all the very short videos and the 1-minute videos, and you can watch them as often as you want and learn as much as you can. And you keep on repeating the mental scroll plus until you've done all the questions a number of times, and you become clearer and clearer about what your problems are, and you understand them better and better, what they are, what caused them, and what will fix them. And then if you want, you can do the slower process, which is go to the Mental Fix It app and answer all the questions there, and get the list of 6 videos that will help you most. So I'm hoping that my Mental Fix It Scroll Plus tool will be available within a month, and because I've run into some health problems of my own, I'm pretty old, I have to reduce my scrolling and my live streaming, so I'm going to have to stop now. But and lots of people want to talk to me, and I can't do that because I don't know how to do the technology, and there's so many, anything from 700 to 7,000 viewers, that I can't do that. But what I'm very interested in doing is, if on the platform you're watching, whether it's TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram or Facebook, you send me your comments, questions and criticisms, and I will respond to that. In the next hour I'm going to be going through all those new followers, people who've liked us and made comments, and any comments, questions and criticisms that come in through the platforms. Or you can email me. I always respond to emails. My email address for that, spelt as it sounds, is healthestuff@gmail.com, healthestuff@gmail.com. And if you can't remember that, just remember the website smilefixit.com, smilefixit.com, and the email address is there. So thank you for watching. Today is Saturday, so I'll be back again at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, Perth time, and then next week, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Perth time and 9 a.m. Sunday time.